Well, please pray with me. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Well, this Sunday marks the end of the program year, and as such, it gave me an opportunity to do some reflecting. And one of the things that struck me was that this is the fourth Celebration Sunday now that I have had the opportunity to share with all of you. It's hard to wrap my head around that, but as I thought about it, I was filled with gratitude for each and every one of you in the ways in which you've extended grace to me and patience and carried me with love in this position, and how blessed I am to be here as one of your ministers. I was also reflecting on the state that we find ourselves in society, something that we do often here, and also the irony that lies at the heart of so much of what we're going through as a people, as a nation, as a community. It is hard to wake up in the morning and turn on your television or open your phone and not appreciate the many divisions we are in as a nation. It is unavoidable. And yet there's a certain irony to this in my mind, because it's remarkable how much as Americans we actually agree on when you poll people. You know, when you poll people about something like immigration, for instance, the vast majority of Americans agree. The vast majority of Americans would say, yes, in the period over the last 10 years, the number of immigrants coming to our country did put strain on many communities. The vast majority of Americans would say, yes, the asylum system was abused by many people as a backdoor into our nation, and that we need to have a good, clean immigration policy that makes sense. And the vast majority of Americans would say immigration has always made our country great. The CEOs of Google, of Microsoft, of NVIDIA, and of SpaceX are all immigrants in this country. Immigration makes us strong, and we have to find a compassionate way to enforce sensible immigration policy. The vast majority of Americans agree on this. And I could go through virtually every other major issue, and as you walk through them, it turns out that when you poll people again and again, the vast majority of Americans actually agree on issues. So then where does this division come from? This is this great irony. We have all this agreement, and yet there are all these deep divisions. Why? Well, the simple reason that we have these things in our brains called the amygdala. That part of our brain that's that animalistic part of our brain that loves to be angry and hate and fearful, and it actually short-circuits other parts of our brain because it's so basic to our evolutionary development. And so people like podcasters know that if you want to get an audience, you just got to hit that amygdala, get people angry, get people fearful, and you get more people tuning in. Same thing with the masters of algorithms on our phones. We have all these divisions in our country, and yet ironically, we're actually quite united when you drill down. Similarly, we are in the most connected time of society and globally that we've ever been in. You can have your phones there in the internet. You have connections all over the globe. You have access to an incredible world body of knowledge and so many people there. And yet with all of this interconnectedness, ironically, people have never been lonelier than they are now. And we read about it time and again, this epidemic of loneliness that strikes our young people, men, others. In suburban America and in suburban Boston, we have deep social networks. So actually, people are less lonely here, but that depends on you having kids in the area. It's often more lonely if you're single or if you're widowed. Also, people are very lonely sometimes in relationships that they're in. The loneliness is there. And then you look at people's deep dissatisfaction. The irony is we've never had more goods in world history. We've never had more advances in medical technology. We have so much, and yet so many people are so unhappy. There's an irony there, and why are they unhappy? Because we're told to chase after the wrong things. We're not given enough deeper meaning and purpose that make our lives meaningful. And so this gives me a chance on Celebration Sunday to point out the fact that the church is the solution to all of these problems. Churches are places where we can come together as a people and talk across differences because we're rooted in Christian love. Churches are a place that are an antidote to loneliness. We form deep relationships here, deep relationships that matter and change your lives at all stages of your life. The church is here a place to say, this is where you find meaning and purpose in life. Not that your life will be happy all the time. It won't be. But true meaning and purpose come from serving others and following in the footsteps of God. One of the things I love about the church is that we have a chance to look at Holy Scripture and see some of the lessons that are there. When I look at this text that Eleanor read earlier from Ephesians 4, here Paul is speaking directly to us. 2,000 years ago, he's speaking directly to you and to me. What does Paul say in this letter? He says, I urge you, I beg you, I plead with you to show humility, to be gentle, to be patient, to bear with one another in love, to seek those bonds of peace that actually unite us together. What great advice. Imagine if our divided society, everyone, was just a little bit more humble about their views. Realizing that even though we might be committed to our views, there are others who are equally committed to theirs, and a little humility goes a long way. Maybe we're not right. Patience with others. Trying to seek love together. This is the advice Paul is giving to each and every one of us. And it's just as true today as it was 2,000 years ago when he first wrote it. I love this thing he says in verse 14. It brings a smile to my face. He says to the Ephesians and other churches, it was likely sent to other churches too. Paul says, stop being children. Stop having your views being tossed aside by those who are trying to stir you up with deceitful arguments and deceitful teachings. And I'm like, did he just write this yesterday? People who are immature, you find one argument, and you're like, oh, this is it, and you get all fired up and you want to go burn things down over one thing. People who are more mature can say, okay, that's one argument. Let's think about what other arguments might be there. How can we be mature in our approach to the issues that are going on in society and not be children just being tossed to and fro in the winds with just one argument after another that fires us up? He's like, don't be children, be mature in these arguments. I'm someone who loves history, as most of you know. And yeah, we have divisions today. You read the arguments in the election of 1800 and how vitriolic they were. You read about how much people hated Andrew Jackson, especially in this part of the country. They called him King Andrew. Literally, the Whig Party was established because it was the anti-Jackson party because they hated him so much. There's, of course, the Civil War. There are debates around the Progressive era. You want to read vitriolic speech? Look at how much people disliked FDR. The 1960s. I think back to when I was a kid in the 1990s and the Contract with America and all the divisions at the time and how we were like, oh gosh, this is ruining America. A little maturity in our approach to what's going on in our country would go a long way. And then Paul points out that the basis for our unity is our belief in God. I do feel bad for those who don't have a belief in God. Because as I look around and see all the stuff that's going on in society, I wonder how they respond to things. If you see all the stuff that's going on, it can be so easy to slip into, oh, I want my side to win because that's where I get meaning from. Where does that lead us? A belief in God fundamentally says that each and every person is made in the image and likeness of God. Everybody in the pews next to you is a creation of our divine Creator. The people who disagree with you, or might be screaming at you, that person is a child of God. Every individual, no matter if they're an immigrant, no matter if they're a longtime citizen, no matter their age, no matter their level of disability, their income, every single person is made in the image and likeness of God. and deserves basic human dignity. To believe in God is to actually transform the way in which we interact with other people. It draws us together in unity, exactly as Paul says in Ephesians. And not only that, to believe in God is to say that behind everything that's going on that can get us down, there is a loving Creator. God is there, working behind all of the chaos to lead us to love, to forgiveness, to unity, and to peace. And it is the church and all of you that give me hope at this time and also bring me joy. When I look back on this year, I am filled with joy and hope. When I think back to the Youth Sunday that we had here, to see the youth up here leading the service, to hear Raleigh preaching from this very same pulpit, to see all the youth singing on these steps, how could you not be filled with hope for the future? Here are kids who are devoted themselves to trying to be closer to God, to doing the right things, to learning the right values. I see that here. I see them being loved by this congregation, by Zach. How could I not be filled with hope and joy? I think of all the amazing things that Sally has done with the kids this year. Have the kids go off with a bag tag on their backpacks that says that they are loved, and they get to see that every single day. To have them hear these wonderful stories and learn about God through art in many different ways. Sally said I had to mention Squiggles, so I'm going to mention Squiggles. If you don't know what Squiggles is, Sally was putting this up on Friday. She was like, mention Squiggles in your sermon. I'm like, well, who is Squiggles? Squiggles, it turns out, goes through the Spark Bibles that are in the pews there for the kids and leads the kids through all these amazing Bible stories. How does that not bring you hope and joy? I think of the music in this church. Who of you has not been inspired by the music this year? At some point or another, not had your souls lifted through the amazing soloists, the incredible chancel choir, through our bell choir, through the youth, through the children's choir that was just singing today. Or you think about the ways in which we serve the community. I mean, the joy of the pumpkin patch, seeing all those people putting pumpkins out there. The unity in that together. A community event. To see how much we contribute to causes outside, to see the hundreds and hundreds of gifts that this congregation contributed to people in need at Christmas time. All the coats collected, to hear people from different nonprofits getting up and saying, this is the work we do, and then seeing you inspired to go do more to help out. And of course, it's the care that you all show one another. To hear the testimonies that so many of you have given about how much love you have experienced in this place by members of this church. This is what gives me hope at this time and brings me unending joy. A little while ago, when I was working in Iowa, I remember attending an ecclesiastical council. For those of you who don't know, the ecclesiastical council is the last step before ordination. And it's actually pretty cool. It's kind of like a thesis defense. So the candidate for ordination shows up, and people are invited from all the churches in the area, and then the candidate presents their theology, and then anyone can ask any question they want. It's wild. Some of the questions are totally off the wall. And you see how the candidate answers, and then everyone votes on whether the person's ready for ordination. I remember this one ecclesiastical council, my friend Anthony was there being grilled, and someone raised their hand and asked him, why are you entering the ministry? Churches are declining. You have the rise of people who are spiritual but not religious. Why are you doing this? And Anthony had this wonderful response. He looked at the person asking the question and he said, everyone I know who's serious about the spiritual life seeks out other people to do it with. People who say they're spiritual but not religious, or they're doing it on their own, I guarantee you the depth of their spiritual life is not there. Because you find that true depth by doing the work with other people. And you all know that. And today we get to honor that. Today I get to give praise to God and thanks to God for all this work they see here and for all of you. We give thanks to God for the ways in which God moves through your souls and through your action, through your hearts, through your service, through all the phone calls, the letters, the visits, the flowers, the endless hours that make this place work. I give thanks to God for the amazing ties that bind us together in Christian love. And so appropriately enough, we get a chance to rise and sing one of my favorite hymns, Blessed Be the Tie That Binds.